Our media friends to please step outside the hall if they wish to speak to some of our inaugural session guests. I request all of you to please remain seated. We will continue with our first panel discussion of the evening. Cross-border M&As can help businesses gain access to new markets, drive synergies, or meet challenges of the modern world. Although these deals present several benefits, companies should understand the complications involved in the process. These considerations may require a significant investment of time and research to determine the advantages of a deal. How do you determine the success of such a marriage? Is accretion for shareholders alone a worthy barometer, or will it be determined by the value created for local communities as well? For this panel discussion on navigating cross-border M&A and investments towards value creation, please put your hands together and welcome on stage our session chairman, Advocate G.P. Madan, founder and managing partner, Madan Law Offices. Please give a round of applause and welcome Advocate G.P. Madan. Joining him on this panel are Mr. Sanjay Gulati, Group Executive Vice President, Corporate Tax, M&A, Regulatory and Compliance and Litigation, GMR Group. Please welcome on stage with a round of applause, Mr. Saurabh Jain, FCPA, Global Finance Leader. Please welcome Dr. P. Narayan Rao, Associate Professor and Head School of Corporate Law and School of Competition Law and Market Regulation, IICI, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. And please welcome Ms. Meenal Madan, founder, SLP Law. Please give a round of applause to our speakers on stage. I will hand over to Advocate G.P. Madan to steer this discussion forward. So I request you to please keep this discussion for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes in the interest of time. And it's over to you, Mr. Madan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I need not request my panelists to reduce the timings of their presentation. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After this powerful and thoughtful inaugural session, now we are coming to this first technical session, where we are going to discuss the cross-border M&A and investment towards value creation, how to navigate all that. Friends, we all know that our Honorable President, Shri Modi ji, whenever visit outside, he never forgets to meet the Indian diaspora there. And whenever he meets them, he asks them to come to India and invest here in India. And last year, I think one portal has also been launched that India, if I remember that the name was the portal, India Chalo or what, something like that. He has requested every NRI staying in outside India to come to India along with 5 foreign nationals. Now suppose if each NRI comes to India with 5 foreign nationals, those foreign nationals not coming to India just to visit India, be a tourist only, but wherever if they find any opportunity, they are going to invest in India also. So that is we are looking for a huge investment potential in India. In addition, certainly whenever Indians are also going abroad, they are also looking for investment opportunities there. And all these investment opportunities are also culminating in various merger and acquisition activities. So in this session, we are going to discuss how this cross-border M&A, how can we strengthen this cross-border M&A. First of all, without going into the further details, I would request my dear friend, Mr. Sanjay Gulati, who is Group Executive Vice President of GMR Group, and he's dealing with the various varied subjects, corporate tax, M&A, regulatory compliance, and litigation. Mr. Gulati, in cross-border field, particularly in India, we have seen various issues pertaining to capital gains tax, short-term capital gain, long-term capital gain. Then we have various provisions of Income Tax Act, Section 47 and 21B. Then carry forward of losses, unabsorbed depreciation. And as a IBBA chairperson also sitting here, he was also saying the various potentials are there of acquisition. So I tell you in IBC, various companies are there to be acquired, not because there is business or assets in those companies, but simply there is a carry forward losses are there. And that is why those companies are targets. And many large business houses are ready to acquire those companies where only just because of the unabsorbed depreciation is there or carry forward losses are there, so that the losses can be carried forward and losses can be taken over into their merged entity. And whether it's a tax planning or tax avoidance, I will not venture into that. And in addition to Indian provisions, then we have various multi-jurisdictional provisions also with respect to M&A. It may be a transfer pricing, or it may be DTEA, or it may be withholding tax. Mr. Gulati, what is your take? Whether the existing provisions which we have as on date, whether they pertaining to domestic mergers or cross-border mergers, are they adequate enough, or something needs to be done either by India or by the global jurisdictions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Madan. This is a very important and very interesting topic as such. And in all global deals and cross-border deals, and more particularly when a merger is taking place, these nuances are looked at by the acquiring company, and at the time of merger planning, all these aspects are looked into. That how much of the carry forward losses are there, and what is the potential risk connected to those losses, how much is the depreciation is there, and how long can that be carried forward to ensure that from a planning perspective, that one can get a reduction in the overall cost during the setups, acquisition stage and post acquisition stage. So from that perspective, it is always a very beneficial proposition to see that those carry forward losses enable business non-taxability for next 3 to 4 years. And that's the reason I think sometimes companies look for to have those companies which have on their balance sheet carried forward losses. So from that perspective, in the current now DTA, the government is mooting out the idea of revamping the and introducing direct tax code. And with that, they are reviewing all possible areas where flexibility in terms of the carry forward losses or depreciation or similar capital gain tax treatment can be revisited, and how we can really seek more enablement in terms of global M&A, that these are not impediments in the whole process of merger and acquisition, and there should be enablement in terms of ensuring the passing on of these benefits. So current provision, I think, are quite enablers, and they facilitate the passing of this from the into the merged entity. Yeah.
Do you think that the direct tax code, I'm going to say it to the budget because it's a great point nowadays, the direct tax code may be part of the forthcoming budget. Earlier, I think the 3 versions have been there, but they failed. You think this is going to be possibility this time and it will sail through?
While this exercise is going on for last almost 8-9 years, or rather 10 years, I mean, where it has been thought to, revamp the code to ensure that wherever any irritants are there, that can be removed. And lots of studies have already gone by in the previous government, by the previous government as well as the current government. And I think it will see the light of the day now. Most likely by the next budget, we should see the major changes coming in the existing Income Tax Act. And it may not be a new act per se, but it will certainly, be a modification, and enabling provisions will come based on the industry inputs. Because there has been a significant work which has already been done, so it is expected. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Next to Mr. Saurabh Jain. Yeah, Mr. Saurabh, yeah. He's a global finance leader. Before this session, during lunchtime, I was having an informal discussion with him. I was really impressed. The way he has traveled, the way he has worked for various multinational companies, institutions, has represented them And no doubt, it is written here that it's a global finance leader, but actually, truly, I found him to be a leader. So, Mr. Saurabh Jain, what do you think that how can we create value by and generate the confidence of the investors, not only domestic investor, but international investors, through stability of policies? Because many a times it is said, particularly in our country, that policies are not stable. They are very, very flexible. They change to the situation, though that is also needed at some points of time. You need to change to the situation. But when the policies are not stable, the investors may not have that sort of confidence. So what do you think, what should we do here in India? Or if you carry with your, certainly you are carrying many practical examples with you, if you can share some of those and which can be adopted here in India also.
Thank you, respected Advocate Madan. Good afternoon, everybody. I am respected Dr. Madan. I am one of those Chalo Bharat guys, right? So I have been back now. So if I may start, when we talk about mergers and acquisitions, why do we do a merger or an acquisition? Just anybody in the audience, why do we do a merger or an acquisition? Anybody? Synergy. Sir? Sorry? To reduce the cost of production, or in other words, growth, right? To create value. Ultimately, you want to create value. So let's remember that again, that merger or acquisition is to create value. Let's pause there. Talking about stability, by the end of 2024, specifically in 2024, there were about 64 countries that had voted, that had elections. That's an unprecedented high, that's a record. 64 countries. That does include many big nations that we all know about. Now, when a new government or the same government comes in, what does it do? Or when a new government comes in, what does it do? It creates instability. It creates reformity. It creates transformation, but it also creates a lot of rupture, right? We see the recent appointment, Trump economics, as it's called now. That is creating a lot of instability. But having 64 countries voted in a year of 2024, and as CXOs or as professionals, when we want to create value, this becomes a major factor. So how do we value our mergers and acquisitions? And back to respected Mr. Madan's point. Remember, let's take a few examples actually first. Take the UK. In the last 3 years, and I was in the UK, I was working in the energy industry. We all are aware of the unfortunate war that broke out, right, between Russia and Ukraine. That created an energy crisis in Europe. And that created a lot of instability in the policies. There were knee-jerk reactions from many governments, specifically the UK, where the income taxes, the corporate income tax, went from about 35% to 75%. And it just didn't go from 35% to 75%. It went from 35 to 55 to 65 to 75. Complete instability. What did that do? It created a complete loss of confidence for the investors. Back to your point. US, let's not dwell on it. We all know that that has created instability. But if you look at one small piece, yes, there has been a Bitcoin growth in other areas. But if you look at one small piece, back into the energy industry, Donald Trump has said, we will go for oil and gas again. No more green energy at this point in time. Many green energy companies' shares just slided. They just almost went out of business overnight. Again, instability, where does the investors' confidence grow? Another macro factor, Europe. So where is Europe in the whole policy? So if you are an Indian company, you want to invest in Europe. As professionals, and it comes back to what should we be doing, so I'll do this simultaneously. Have we thought through, could there be another Brexit in Europe? Would another country want to step out? How do we project that confidence to the investors? So these are some of the macro factors that we have to take into account as professionals. Middle East. Middle East is not just about what's happening in Israel and Palestine. Iran. Now that Saudi is going to have bigger muscles, what will be the situation with Iran? What will be the shipping routes? And these are the kind of risk management frameworks that Mr. Singhvi had earlier alluded to, that we as professionals need to be aware of. Ultimately, the last point is, as professionals, we need to be very astute on this geopolitical situation. And how do we factor this valuation, a discount or a premium, into all the mergers and acquisitions that may happen in and out of India? Thank you.
Thank you. I think within 3-4 minutes you have covered Europe, America, geopolitical, Ukraine, Russia, everything. Do you think within last 9 days, whatever the statements have been given by Mr. Trump, whether any of those statements is going to create instability in India?
Possibly, and if I may pick one example, tariffs, right? Tariffs and Trump goes hand in hand. We all know that.
On this, yesterday I was reading a joke that one of the Indian leader is saying, देखो Trump is saying tarif, 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 while he's saying tariff, tariff, and tariff.
We would all prefer tarif, right? But tariff and Trump goes hand in hand. And I'm not a stock market person, but many of the stock markets, and if you take the events of the last 3-4 days specifically, DeepSeek and NVIDIA, right? I mean, the markets crashed tremendously. That is an emotional reaction to something that we don't even know what's out there. So to your point, sir, in the last 9 days, tariffs is the big thing that's hanging out there. The other thing that Trump has said is the whole BRICS economy, which India is quite a pivotal part of, that if BRICS does not come to party, he will impose special tariffs on BRICS. And these are the sentiments that create instability in the stock market, in the investor's mind. So absolutely, we are plowing through a lot of instability at the moment that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, my next question is to Dr. Paila Narayan Rao. He's an associate professor and head School of Corporate Laws, School of Competition Law and Market Regulation, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. My very good friend, old friend, I think for last many years since the time you came to Northern India. We have been friends, we have been meeting each other. Dr. Paila, the topic which has been given to you as per the schedule, I tell you, I got confused. It says ensuring fair competition in digital M&A. Now, whether it is a use of technology in M&A or M&A in digital sector, I really got confused. Now, whether you want to cover both or one of these, I'm giving you that choice. Use of technology in M&A or M&A in digital sector. And then second question, I'll come to you later on. Yeah, please.
So the question, the topic that is assigned to me is basically M&As in digital technology sector. Yes. So the main idea is that since India allows inbound and outbound mergers, so in ordinary mergers, normally when we talk about, so we know that how the merger takes place and what are the factors considered. But now the trend has changed. Now the M&A activity in the digital sector has increased. So the idea is that no single company have that digital capability to operate independently. So what they do normally, M&As in digital technology sector is, there are companies which have some or other potential digital capabilities, but they are not good enough independently to operate. So what now companies are doing, so they are coming together for mergers in this sector, especially e-commerce companies, artificial intelligence, then all the space that they're occupied in the digital sector, for two reasons they're coming together, but none of them are having enough capability to operate independently, but when they come together, they can operate in a very dominant level. One is accessing the new technologies. One advantage why the M&As are more famous in the digital technology sector. Second is market access. Market access is the second factor. Third is expertise. To create some value through some patenting, etc. Because normally e-commerce sector have this problem is that the majority of the technologies are patented. So now I cannot do anything which has already been done and protect it. So I can only club with them. So this is where the M&As in digital sector is relevant. And the third is consumer base. to reach maximum consumers so that they can able to reach a level. But what is happening in this level? There are very few players who are able to reach that dominant position, and the dominant position is creating some issues when we talk about fair competition is, one is predatory pricing. So now I have reached a level where I can able to dictate through predatory pricing, number one. Number two, unilateral decisions. We have seen in the Google case, which CCI has dealt with earlier, unilateral decision. Google decides that what should be the course of action irrespective of the views of other party. This is a unilateral decision. Third is exclusive agreement. I will only accept whom I wanted to accept, but I don't accept others. So the exclusive agreements. Then data privacy issues also. When you keep browsing these website, e-commerce websites, I hope you all aware that your data gets stored there. If I check 5 minutes before American Tourister suitcase I wanted to buy in an e-commerce website, I searched it and left it. I did not buy it. But very next minute, whatever websites I'm visiting, the suitcase are appearing on it. So how that the websites were able to know that I'm looking for it and I searched for it few minutes back. So this is another issue. So that means a large amount of data that people who are browsing in various websites is getting stored somewhere. So the person who have an access, who was actually in that dominant position is able to access that. So is that available to others later? So there are competitional issues which are coming up, whether that is treated to be fair competition or not is the big issue. So for that, India is reviewed the competition laws recent past. A lot of committee reports have come up. How to deal with this situation? What will happen to the small companies which have a limited technology capabilities, or they remain or going to get merged with someone to make someone very dominant? So that dominant player may likely to create a situation of unfair competition. So this is the first part of the topic that is given to me. So, but it's very difficult to see what kind of computational issues comes in a digital era. So that is the present day discussion and debate. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Paila. You touched upon the digital data protection. You know, this legislation came into being sometime in 2023, and now the rules have also come. And now the discussions on the rules are happening. Do you think after going through the act and the rules, is it practically possible to implement this legislation? And if yes, particularly with respect to the corporate sector, or let me confine it to M&A activities only, you think it will be feasible and practically possible to implement that legislation in this field?
So any legislation, sir, this is a very nascent stage. The only thing that required is that we need some set of case laws that the issues people needs to raise. So for any legislation to be better understand, we need to have a jurisprudence to be evolved. As you rightly said, the act is very new and the rules have come up. So we really don't know that what kind of issues that we did not able to sense it when the legislation was made. So probably in next 1 to 2 years, you will get to know more once the jurisprudence emerges. So that is my gut feel.
Now I come to Meenal Madan, an entrepreneur, a founder of SLP Law. Meenal, with respect to regulatory landscape, regulatory provisions, you know, we need new policies, new framework by regulators, and to streamline the efficiency of cross-border transactions, efficiency of not only the regulations, but I will say the efficiency of regulators also. That's also needed. And then not only the efficiency, but also the mindset of the regulators. We have to leverage technology in order to have a better costing, better speed. And speed, IBBA chairperson was here. Whenever I read IBC, I read the speed is the hallmark. No doubt at the end, Mr. Ravi Mittal also touched upon the delays. Though the hallmark of the law is speed, but actually there delays are happening. But that are beyond the control of the stakeholders. And very soon we will cross all those hurdles also within maybe For all of you, because I'm a corporate lawyer, I can tell you that the speed was not there, the delays was there because of the infrastructure is not available, number of members not there. At NCLT, recently 24 new members have been appointed, and today, I being a member of the bar, official of the Bar Association, we are going to felicitate them. After this session, I'll be straight away going there. And from 1st of February, 24 new members will be joining NCLT. NCLT will be working full time. All the benches will be full time, and all the IBC matters or company law matters or M&A matters or O&M matters will be decided at the earliest possible. Now, Minal, may I ask you, what according to you, the same question I asked earlier, Mr. Sanjay also, whether the regulatory landscape which is there as on date, is it sufficient, again, for domestic M&A activities and global M&A activities, cross-border M&A activities, or we need some changes in that?
Thank you very much. So I would like to first start this topic by explaining, as an M&A, PE, VC lawyer who has been practicing for more than 15 years across Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, Gurgaon circles, working with American, European, Australian investors, we have to understand, and we have to understand one thing very clearly, that when two companies are merging, acquiring businesses, or they are coming together because of technology, it is in their free will to do that. They have to comply with regulations, yes, but they have to only take care of the stakeholders that have invested in the business. When you go as an activity, M&A activity, or a PE activity, or a VC activity, the activity itself is not what requires approval from the industry. Let me take an example for a Disney Hotstar case. It was the approval of a CCI, that is the Competition Commission, that was required. So two companies which are free to do any business activities, obviously, they're following the rest of the laws, but if they choose to come together as a merger, as an acquisition, as an investment, be a PE investment, be a VC investment, as far as value creation is concerned, value is something we as lawyers at our level do not assess. Value is assessed by mostly financial advisors, and these financial advisors then share the reports with the founders. And when the deal comes to us, our job is to understand what are the pain points of the deal from a legal perspective. Now, that may include your due diligence, which may sound something as very standard, but we also have to understand that due diligence has evolved over a period of years. It's not just the legal due diligence that we do anymore. There are environmental due diligences, there are technical due diligences, there are data-specific due diligences that are done these days. So what creates value for a client is for that client to decide, because they are acquiring a company or they are investing in a company. As an advisor, it is on us to prepare a strategy as to how we can help that client get the maximum investment out of it. Please understand, legal deals do not cancel deals. They are pain points, they are red blocks, yes. But when you have a red block, unless and until that is followed by a financial sum, which is not what is matching with the deal value, only then do we have, in our legal experience, seen deals go away. If you do not get an approval from a particular authority, that is a very separate case. But that does not mean that the entire deal has been cancelled. So these are some very basic concepts I would like to first clarify. The second concept I would like to clarify is, what is it that you're acquiring? There are many methods to acquire a company. You can buy it through shares. You can buy the business. You can do a limited asset purchase and not buy the liabilities. So we first have to understand what is the sector that we are targeting, because we have to understand that multiple sectors are regulated by multiple laws. You have the Factories Act for the factories. You have employees-specific acts for different states. So it's not that the laws are not there. But what is it that you are looking to seek an approval from a third-party authority? We have to first identify what is that we are taking into another company. Is that an asset? Is that the shares? Or is it the entire business? Now, just to add on a little bit to it, I would like to say that when we work with clients, how do we help them understand what is sustainable growth? What is value creation? We add legal points to it. Let's say, for example, we know from advance that, okay, the company will need a CCI approval. We will let them know in advance. Because let's say, for an example, there's, as I took the example of Disney Hotstar, you will require multiple approvals across multiple jurisdictions. That is exactly what cross-border means, that you are involving multiple jurisdictions across, sectors. So if you need a sector-specific approval, we have to be very specific about that. Do we need an overarching approval or, as Sir said, a tax-specific approval? So there are multiple focus areas that we have to understand. Value creation cannot be a standard concept which is vague in itself. To understand where value is coming from, we have to first understand what is it that the client finds value in. And to understand where will the sustainable growth come in, that is where our strategies come in, that is where our reviews of laws come in, because basis those strategies, we make timelines and we give them the information as to how they can avoid any delays, any issues that they might have during the process. Sorry, just to take 2 more minutes and expand, what we also do to create value and to create sustainability is to negotiate with the clients to understand. Let's say, for example, one of the most simple clause, reps and warranties, which is always followed by indemnities. In manufacturing specific contracts, you need to have certain indemnities that you will not find in a software company, because there are no land-related issues. Let's say, going to a different example to give you a comparison. Let's say I have a company which is a data company. In a data company, what about my data leakage? Because my value is not in a land. My value is not in a product. My value is in a software, in a technology. But let's say if I'm sharing some part of the technology before the deal has completed, then what happens, right? My client may end up losing a lot of critical data or something which may seem intangible to someone else, but may be of a lot of value to someone else. So it is not just to understand what value creation is or what growth is. We have to understand specifically where does the client find growth. Because in my understanding, they have done all that work. They also have a lot of other advisors, financial advisors, tax advisors, wherein they understand, okay, this is what we, want to get from you. So it's not that just we can, focus and tell clients, okay, you do this, you do that. No, clients also come with very specific demands, wherein we have to adjust and we have to understand that are we delivering the right kind of material that is the client is wanting. Because we may have the legal understanding, but the business understanding at the end of the day comes from the client. Sorry for taking 10 more seconds. One more thing that I want to very specifically clarify. We are used to seeing the word cross-border, and we are used to this mindset that money is coming in India. That is not true. In today's market, cross-border means money goes out of India. More than that, the value goes out of India. The Dubai Golden Visa is one of the classic examples for it. There are so many laws on cryptocurrency, AI, blockchain that have not been made. But because of that, clients have left, countries like India and have gone to other jurisdictions. So you have to understand, if we are talking about value creation, are we creating the value in our own country? Or are we creating the value outside of our country? So this is also where our restrictions come in, because as lawyers, we are limited to practice in India. Therefore, when we are advising clients, we also have to see where are we advising. Because if our scope increases to jurisdictions outside of India, then we don't come in. There are lawyers from other jurisdictions that come in and, we work together on the legal advisory to move forward and, give the clients the results they want. I hope that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Sanjay, I'm coming to now sector specific. If I understand that you are the only listed airport company in India? Right?
Yes, that's correct.
And there is only one airline listed company in India. Isn't it?
Yes.
And in airlines, practically, we have got duopoly. Practically, though we have small airlines also. So one listed company in airports, one listed company in airlines, and certainly you have created value for the country because your airport has been designated as the best airport for years together.
Years together.
Years together. So what exactly, whether foreign investors are eyeing into India in these two sectors or any of these two sectors? Because month on month, if we see number of aircrafts are increasing, airports are increasing, number of travelers are increasing, whether domestic traveler or again international travelers. There's a too much tremendous growth. So what is the foreign investors? Are they coming, looking at India, or maybe by way of any acquisition, or certainly they cannot have any merger? No company is ready for merger. Acquiring some stake in some of the companies or something like that.
Yeah, Mr. Madan, this is, we all know that India is an emerging market, and India is the most growing market, and it's growing, and as per the last data that, you know, India's GDP is going to grow multifold in next, by 2030. So therefore, looking into that, every area of an Indian economy is going to, you know, grow leaps and bounds. The very first thing is that while airport sector is growing, aviation sector per se is growing, our growth in the passengers per segment in Delhi airport more particularly, from 50 million, it has gone to 100 million passengers. And we are now catering 100 million passengers. So the growth is certainly there, and that's where the foreign investors are finding India as a very emerging, stable market. And considering the stable market and considering the geography of India, there is a potential for growth. And since the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Government of India has taken keen interest in ensuring that there is a wide network, air connectivity network which is established by 2030 and 2047. With that ambition in mind, foreign investors are hugely interested to invest in India. And especially we have our very significant joint venture partner, Airport Development Paris. And then similarly, you have seen Jewar Airport is being, you know, where we have seen investment from Zurich Airport. And so that's the reason all global players are finding India as a very potential market for growth, and because of the geopolitical stability in this region, and more particularly India as such as a very stable democracy. The business environment is stable, and the financial market is also very stable as far as when somebody looks for investing money in India. So that's where we are seeing potential investment opportunities, and lots of foreign investors are eyeing into investing into the airport and aviation sector per se.
Great, nice to know, because now what you have said is there is stability here, stability with respect to the airline sector, stability with respect to financial sector, stability with respect to the geopolitical situation.
And I would add to that is
Yeah.
the stability in our laws, and there is a certainty in our legal system, and you know where the investors find it very important as one of the aspect where judicial system or a legal system protects the investments of the foreign nationals. And we have seen in the past couple of deals where Supreme Court and the High Court, like we had seen Tata Docomo, then we had seen the deal of pharma company, and where you know foreign investors' interest was protected by the Indian courts. So whereas in other geographies and other jurisdictions, this particular aspect was weak. More particularly if we see China, we see Russia or other countries where, you know, you see, you don't see that the investor protection is as great as India, you know, looks into.
I think you are giving full marks to all the regulators. You should be part of the delegation of the External Affairs Minister wherever he goes. You are the true Indian brand ambassador.
Absolutely.
Can I
And
please
a
add
true
one-
Indian.
Can I please add one
Yeah,
point?
yeah, yeah. And along with the final buzzword with respect to if you need anything more should be there. I think what Mr. Sanjay said, everything is available here.
No,
What else should be there in India?
It's not what else should be there. It's already what else is there. And I have been involved with a major global airlines who are looking to get involved in India. And one of the key things that does happen or attract is consistency in performance at our airports and the humility in performance at our airports. Yeah, and the consistency and humility is a rare combination. And I do say that from having seen, and I'm sure all of us travel, or most of us travel abroad, we only get to see the grass is greener on the other side. But when you start looking at the humility, the consistency, and the efficiency with which you deliver, there's a great attraction.
The additional point to this is that the government of India, the way they are looking into ease of doing business and the ranking of India on the global map in terms of ease of doing business is increasing very fast and progressing very fast in terms of ensuring that our laws our regulations are made, compatible with the global investment scenario, and there are no cross-border bottlenecks in terms of, taking away or for repatriation of your investments after a certain time. I think that's attracting the global investors, and more so from the capital market standpoint. Also, we have seen that the regulation is very agile in terms of ensuring that the foreign investors do not find difficulty in terms of at the time of exit, how do they exit and how quickly they can get their money back from India. So I think these are couple of measures which have been taken by the government in the last couple of years, which has led to India being looked at as the most stable business environment and growing business environment. And opportunities are significant as such that India, if you see, has potential for all areas where investment is required, whether it is green energy or whether it is urbanization or whether it is real estate development or engineering, and space is one of the most attractive destination now. India is supporting many developed countries in terms of space technology and space related areas. So these are, I think, the recent developments of our emerging business portfolios, which I think global investors are finding it very interesting.
That's excellent. I think in addition to your own regulator, you have given full marks. Number 1 to Honorable Supreme Court of India, number 2 to Reserve Bank of India, and number 2 to the Securities and Exchange Board of India. This is what I've gathered from your... Oh, great. Now coming from Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, nowadays the BRSR and ESG are buzzwords. So Dr. Paila, with respect to M&A activities, how do you rate this and how do you take care of the ESG policies? Whether you do due diligence of the ESG policies of the other entity, so that whenever this combined entity is there, it is easy to adopt the policies of the other company, and we have a robust ESG framework at work.
Very simple.
And after this, there will be last question, and I want that question should come from the audience to Minal.
Yes, sir. So we need to understand when we invest in companies, especially listed companies. So normally, if I asked in general sense, what all you assess before you invest in a company, so normally people says that we see their prospectus and their track record, how they were in the market and what value they created, how people are getting benefited, etc., is a very normal routine answer. So whether we really, when we invest, whether we have something, if I wanted to assess, whether we have any ratings on that company, like previously we used to talk about credit ratings. So like that, in recent past, there is a concept called ESG. ESG means environmental social governance. So this is, in present context, is impacting a lot the investments, and people are talking about it, and they are talking about ESG ratings of the company before investments. So what exactly it is? Environmental social governance. how this company basically the sustainability performance, basically that is what the investor basically tested. So how the company impacting the environment, how the company is treating their employees and the community, how the company is conducting their operations, risk management, etc. So if you go by ESG ratings that SEBI has a format which collects from listed companies, especially top 1,000 listed companies, where you can able to see these factors, because these factors, investors are seeing it in nowadays just to see that how much financial risk involved. I'm investing in a place where the company is going to sustain the financial performance is one of the biggest factors. So I don't know how many of you read the board reports and the company board reports, etc. You can actually see that how the manpower turnover, for example, or how people are often regularly coming and leaving the company, which is one of the factors to know that whether this company is not good enough to work, or the company HR policies. Everything now a factor for me to understand that how good this company to invest. So ESG, when you talk about ESG, there are two factors now mainly influencing. One is the value, second is the risk. A risk is very important because you talk about morning session, you heard about companies are under the stress. Like there are many companies are going for insolvency. So when I invested, when I saw their balance sheet, it doesn't reflect anything for me that this company is going to be very soon into the risk. But I don't know how to read that balance sheet to understand that this is a verge of insolvency where I'm investing. So ESG helps you to understand, with going by the history of the company, whether what is the performance, the sustainability of this company is very important. Now, this has added to M&A. Now, even I wanted to take over such companies and to propose any merger or amalgamation, even the transferee companies are also looking at these ESG factors. Now, this ESG factors is one of the main factors to decide the success of the takeover or a merger. Because they are also equally understand there is any value left in this company to acquire. So ESG is now integrated with M&A as well. So that your survival rate as an internal restructuring to remain in the market even to a merger or a takeover, your ESG is also again one of the biggest factor. So now it has gone beyond the investment even to an M&A level as well. So this is one of the very important factors. Every one of you should look into that format of that SEBI, how they take ESG ratings of the companies.
Thank you. The other day, I think last Sunday only, when I was discussing with some of the other professionals at Mumbai, that in ESG field, not only this is the corporate professionals or the finance professional, legal professionals are being engaged, but the technocrats and the engineers are also being appointed by various large companies in this ESG field to prepare this report. This is a very nice beginning. Yeah, okay, the last question from any of the participants. Yes, please. Can somebody pass on the mic if available? Other somebody can take my mic and give it to him. आवाज बुलंद करो ना अपनी, हम सुन सकेंगे.
What I have found is, I'm Rakesh Singhal, Chartered Accountant. Over the last few years, I have seen the role of Competition Commission of India getting diluted. I have seen getting diluted. Okay. So because once I see the cement sector, so Ultratech or Adani, when I see the telecom sector, the Jio finished many companies. So in the scenario of the mergers and acquisitions, just comment on the role of CCI in India.
Okay, please. I will give you a topic also.
Not favorite, but I don't know. Thank you for the question. From a CCI perspective, yeah, loud and clear. Okay, so from a the perspective, from a CCI perspective, we have to understand market has certain conditions. If the company, when acquiring or merging with another company, impacts the full market, let's say a few years back when there were few car companies, let's say mostly Maruti, Hyundai, If those two companies would merge, it would affect the entire car market, which is why a third party government authority would come, and as per the rules of the CCI, they will see that does this company need to make an application. Generally, the lawyers see it at their end when they are evaluating the deal. And if that approval is required, then we approach the authorities. But if the approval is not required, because the act very clearly says that full market has to be impacted, so then there is no requirement for a company to go and get that approval. Mostly it applies to multinational major listed companies because they have that much market share. But if the market share is not that high, then under the authorities, you may not even need to apply. I hope that solves my question. Gives the answer.
Yeah, thank you. I tell you, in case of M&A, NCLT doesn't approve any scheme unless CCI approval is there if it is required. No doubt CCI has raised the bar, raised the financial limits, the threshold limit has been raised. You know, we individuals, human being, we always ये दिल मांगे more. रेगुलेटर की परमिशन चाहिए तो हमें दिक्कत होती है, नहीं चाहिए होती है तो भी दिक्कत होती है. अब रेगुलेटर परमिशन ओपन फील्ड कर दिया सबके लिए तो हमें प्रॉब्लम है, रेगुलेटर पकड़ के रखता है तो हमें प्रॉब्लम होती है. तो इट्स ऑलवेज देयर.
But Competition Commission is really acting as a strong watchdog.
Absolutely, I vouch for this.
Yeah, and they're looking at the dominance, role of the dominance entity or a group plays in that particular business. And where it is a fair competition, CCI is watching that also, that whether that leads to a fair competition and growth. So there is sometimes a global, dominant player in terms of a technology, or he is dominant in terms of a particular area of business. So that is not to be considered as a dominant to control, right? And which will not allow competition. It is about that sometimes that dominance enables more competition and creates more growth opportunities for others. So unless that technology company, like we talk about in the area of AI or in any other area, which is now in particular market, that business has grown. But then when it comes to an emerging market, that business has an opportunity. So maybe a dominant player has that capabilities and competencies which he is bringing to the other, will not really mean that it will lead to an unfair competition.
You know, whether it's a dominance or monopoly or fair competition, I think CCI has also been rated one of the best regulators in the world, like RBI and SEBI. And last week only we have seen one of the orders coming from NCLAT, where the CCI order passed by in case of WhatsApp, that has been upheld. With this, friends, we need to come to an end to this session because the time is running out. I'm getting messages from the organizer. Thank you very much, all my panelists, and thank you very much, all the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you to our speakers for sharing their thoughts on cross-border M&As. I would request our session chairman, Advocate G.P. Madan, founder and managing partner, Madan Law Offices, to please present our speakers with mementos. We thank them for coming here and sharing their views with the audience. I request you to please present a memento to Mr. Sanjay Gulati, Group Executive Vice President, Corporate Tax, M&A, Regulatory Compliance and Litigation, GMR Group. Please present a memento to Mr. Saurabh Jain, FCPA, Global Finance Leader. A memento for Dr. P. Narayan Rao, Associate Professor and Head School of Corporate Law and School of Competition Law and Market Regulation, IICA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. And a memento for Ms. Meenal Madan, founder, SLP Law. I would request Dr. Santosh Parashar, Head and Director, Department of Corporate Affairs, ASSOCHAM, to please come up on stage and present our session chairman, Advocate G.P. Madan, with a memento. We thank all our speakers.
Last many years, he has been serving SOCHM and he has conducted many wonderful programs. And this is his last program of his tenure here, association with SOCHM. Let's give him a big hand. And I, on behalf of all of you, wish him a good success for his career.
Thank you to our speakers. I request you to please take your seats off stage. Discussion. And the topic for this discussion is Building a Future-Ready Economy, Evolving Governance, Risk and Compliance GRC Landscape.